All right. What is up, YouTube? Oh, what is going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up, the Catch fam? All right, had a little bit of a technical error, so I do apologize for that, guys. Hopefully, we're up and running again. But yeah, we're gonna hop right into it, man. Week 4 must start running backs, and then we will go over running backs in general for the night, man. And overall, do the normal fantasy Q&A and do some Madden Hangout, man. So I'm super excited as always, man. So let's hop into week 4 running backs without further ado. So the highest profile name that I have for the night is Austin Eckler of the LA Chargers, man. I think he is going to have a fantastic game. It looks like I just messed up my overlay here. Let's see if we can't fix that. There we go. Solid. So yeah, sorry about that, guys. Another technical error on the night. It's always interesting here at the Catch. So Austin Eckler versus the Las Vegas Raiders, I think, is going to be a very favorable matchup overall, man. I like this one a lot. Okay, the Raiders have been very bad against anyone catching the football this season, right? I mean, they've played pretty well defensively overall, but I still think that Eckler has a fantastic game. He's sitting around RB5 at the current moment. The Raiders are about the 17th ranked team versus opponent or versus running backs at the moment. Excuse me. So he's had at least 12 fantasy points in all 3 games so far. So I like where Austin Eckler is. I would absolutely start him with full confidence against the Raiders this week. All right, another kind of high profile name for you guys, Joe Mixon versus the Jaguars, man. I really like this start on the week. I think he's going to have a fantastic game overall, man. Listen, the Jaguars have been pretty abysmal versus opposing running backs, 26th ranked team on the year so far versus running backs. He's continued to, he's kind of digressed since week 1, don't get me wrong. But in full PPR, I think he's going to have a fantastic week overall, man. I truly do. I love this matchup, man. I think he's going to eat. I think he's going to get back to what we saw in week 1. I think he is a must start, hands down, this week versus a very bad Jaguars defense. So I would start him with pretty extreme confidence overall. Okay, David Montgomery. I know he's been disappointing a lot of you guys. He's disappointed me as well. Don't get me wrong. I mean, this is a guy that I vouched for all offseason and preseason, man. And he has been pretty disappointing overall. I mean, we can't really deny it, man. But he's got the Lions this week, right? And I think this is a fantastic matchup. I mean, Montgomery's sitting around RB19 at the moment, man. But the Lions are the 23rd worst team versus opposing running backs, excuse me. And listen, don't get me wrong. I mean, we talked about exploiting Tyson Williams versus the Lions all of last week, and it did not work out. But I still think that was just a bad game script overall. And I really like David Montgomery this week, and I think that the Bears have figured out that they are going to have to lean on Montgomery as a whole. So I look for this as a sort of redemption game for David Montgomery on the season. So I like him a lot this week. Okay, I've got an interesting one that I'm going to hold off on for. I'm going to do one more must start. Then I'm going to do a group must start for the week as well. So we'll get to that one in a second, man. But hey, listen, I really like Chris Carson this week versus the San Francisco 49ers. I know we hear that name, the 49ers, and we automatically think of such a good defense, right? But And don't get me wrong, they played pretty well on the season, but I really like Chris Carson this week, man. I think he is going to have a good game. I think when we look at some of the running backs that have faced the San Francisco 49ers, like Aaron Jones last week, they haven't stood up as well as we thought they have, right? They're actually the 20th worst team against opponent running backs on the season. So I like Chris Carson a lot. The San Francisco 49ers, not as good defensively as we thought they were, right? And he's had at least 11 points in half PPR and full PPR through his first 3 weeks, right? I think he's a very solid start versus the 49ers this week. So I would start Chris Carson with full confidence here in week 4. Okay, I got an interesting one for you guys. I'm interested to get your guys' feedback on this next one overall. Okay, Trey Sermon / Eliza Mitchell versus the Seahawks. I don't know exactly who to start, and you guys know that I despise the San Francisco 49ers backfield in fantasy, but I think just based on the matchup versus the Seahawks, who are the worst team in the entire league against opposing running backs, I think that this is a must start, just completely based off, of the matchup alone. Now, the problem is I don't know whether to tell you to start Trey Sermon or Eliza Mitchell, and who knows if another running back will come into the mix as well. But at the moment, man, I think you take a risk on one of these guys if you have them on your roster at the moment. Eliza Mitchell should be healthy, and I know this goes against everything I've talked about all season long, as I have not been a big fan of any of the running backs just due to the way that this backfield is oriented. But at the moment, man, I just think based on the matchup, you could take a shot at Trey Sermon or Eliza Mitchell if he's healthy and still come out with a pretty good stat line overall. So I know I've talked very poorly about this backfield, but man, I think it's worth a shot here in week 4, just being that they're playing the Seahawks. All right, James, what is going on, man? Happy to see you in the chat, man. Happy to have you here. As always, man, hope you're having a fantastic night. Gibson, Mixon, or Saquon this week and rest of the season. Well, Joe Gibson was one of my must-starts for week 4 here, so I would absolutely start him. I think that he's got a good matchup, and I think that he's going to have kind of a bounce-back game in comparison to what we've seen thus far, outside of week 1 on the season. So I like Mixon's volume overall. I think that Saquon is going to look pretty good for the rest of the season as well. At the moment, I kind of have higher conviction in both of those guys over Antonio Gibson, but Gibson's got a pretty good matchup this week versus the Falcons. So I like him this week as well. But he's been relatively inconsistent, right? So he's definitely a hard start in terms of the entire season. I know he's disappointed a lot of people. He was someone that Steven and I were both really high on in the preseason and offseason. And, he's starting around RB17, right? The Falcons are about, ranked 19th overall versus opposing running backs. So it's a good matchup, but there are better matchups. But at the moment, man, I just think that Saquon and Mixon are kind of starting to get that fire underneath them again. So let's go through the entire list, because why not? But yeah, those are my top 5 must-starts for the week that I already went over. So if you guys want to hear those again, I'm happy to repeat those as well. All right, let's see. So Derrick Henry versus the Jets is probably the best start in fantasy football this week. I mean, really just based off the fact that it's Derrick Henry, right? And, man, part of me is wishing that I took Derrick Henry number 1 overall. He is RB number 1 right now. I mean, I think if Christian McCaffrey was fully healthy, he probably would be. But listen, the Jets are the 30th worst team against running backs on the season, and I think that Derrick Henry could have another week like he had in week 2 versus the Seahawks. So I would start him with extreme confidence this week, and I would not regret it whatsoever. I think we're going to see one of those monster games out of Derrick Henry, especially if the Jets somehow stay in this game. Then I think Derrick Henry is going to have a bananas game. I think it's just going to be ridiculous overall. So start Derrick Henry, and I know that we're not necessarily going over my top 5 must-starts for the week at this point, and I know most of you guys know to start Derrick Henry, but I would definitely recommend it. Okay, Alvin Kamara's got the New York Giants, who are the 25th worst team versus opposing running backs. So I know Kamara was a little washy in week 2, but listen, Carolina's the second best, or the first best team overall versus opposing running backs. So I don't really blame Alvin Kamara for having a bad week in week 2. But yeah, as I'm looking at some of the comments here, I'll get to the live chat in just a second. But obviously, you're starting Kamara if you have him anyways, man. But yeah, he's got a fantastic matchup. Like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, man, there are some really good matchups for some of these star running backs overall. And I think Derrick Henry and Kamara have some of the best 2 matchups of the week, if not the best matchups of the week. Kraken, let's see. What is going on, brother? Happy to have you in the chat, man. Hope you are doing fantastic tonight. D-Hop, Swift, or Mike Williams flex this week in a 16? That is a very tough question, man. But if I'm being completely truthful, the way that Mike Williams is playing right now, I am not starting anyone over him. And I have a lot of problems. I think Deandre Swift is great right now, and I have a lot of problems telling you to sit DeAndre Hopkins, but I also have a problem not starting Mike Williams this week. So, and not even this week, just for the rest of the season, man. I feel great about Mike Williams in general, man. Someone who I am really beating myself up for not drafting in any of my primary leagues, as I had a ton of conviction in him in the offseason and preseason. Let's see. Steven says, what is going on, Steven? Happy to see you in the chat, man. Sorry we could not get you in the live stream tonight. I know we were both really bummed. We did some more troubleshooting tonight, trying to get some logistics figured out, man. But happy to have you as our respected, I don't know what I'm saying, our most favorite mod in the world, Steven. Shout out to you, our co-host on the Catch, man. Happy to have you in the chat tonight. All right. Love Mixon. Do it all. 3 down back. I totally missed out on him. Yeah, Steven, you were really high on Joe Mixon in the offseason. I'm surprised you didn't end up with him. And if you missed the beginning of the stream, man, Austin Eckler, my must start of the week versus the Raiders. Running back 5 right now, depending on scoring format, but on average. And he drafted him 5th overall, man. So right now you look pretty smart, even though I got after you for that one. So yeah, I think he's going to have a great week versus the Raiders. Boss Man Fat, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat, man. Happy to see you as always. Hope you're doing fantastic. Richard Glass, yay, it's working out. Thank you, brother, for looking out for the Catch fam tonight, man. Thank you for working through some of those technical difficulties with us, and thank you for giving Steven and I some feedback earlier when we were testing out Steven on the live stream. Truly appreciate that, man. It really does help out the channel. So just appreciate you being a loyal member to the Catch and helping out the channel as well, my guy. Happy to see you in the chat as always. Bossman Fat, who's better for the rest of the season, Bryan Edwards or Zack Pascal? It's a good question. Listen, man, one big point I've been making on Bryan Edwards is he had the touchdown callback in week 1, and then he had the touchdown callback in week 2 as well. If you add those to his fantasy stat lines, this guy wouldn't be available in any league. And he still had a good week in week 3 without a score, especially in full PPR scoring formats. So I like Bryan Edwards a lot, but I also like Zack Pascal, who's got a ton of red zone targets on the season. I think when we're looking at both of these receivers and we start to evaluate their respective offenses, I think Bryan Edwards might have a better year on the season, but I actually own Zack Pascal in my Stevens 12-man league, and I don't own Bryan Edwards, but I own Henry Ruggs. So I like both of them, but I view them in kind of similar fashion. But I will say that Bryan Edwards, I think, is on the better offense as a whole, as the Colts just look banged up, right? We know that Carson Wentz is banged up, and I like where the Raiders are at a little bit more overall. But with that being said, I view them in relatively similar fashion. I just hope we don't get any more weeks out of Zack Pascal like we got this past week, right? I mean, versus the Titans, I thought he was going to ball out. I started him. He got dropped in our league, and I thought it was a great pickup, and fantasy gods are just out to get me. So it's a tough question to answer. I like both of them, and I think Zack Pascal will still have some of those good games like we saw in Week 1 and Week 2. But my gut feeling is telling me that Bryan Edwards is going to have a better season. But these Raiders receivers are definitely fantasy relevant at the moment, man. And I like Henry Ruggs a lot as well. And I think in full PPR, Hunter Renfrow is a pretty reliable option also. All right. Steven, Mike Williams is such a beast. Yeah. Talked about it all offseason. One of the first videos I did on this channel, right? Sleeper receivers on the year. I talked about Mike Williams like nonstop on the channel. Talked about in our podcast, for the AFC West, right? I mean, I think I talked about Mike Williams almost as much or more than anyone else in the offseason. And I'm still beating myself up, man, for not drafting him in any leagues, man. He kind of got off my radar because I was talking about him so early on. And towards the end of the preseason, he just kind of came off my radar. And, I mean, he got drafted pretty early in our 12-man league. But nonetheless, man, I'm really beating myself up over that one. So, Steven says, Richard, LOL, no more AOL dial-up. Yeah, Richard was in here earlier when we were doing some test streams, and apparently it was as bad as AOL. So thank you for battling through that, Richard. We do appreciate it, like I said, man. Fantasy Catch-Up, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat, man. Hope you're doing fantastic. Always happy to have you here, man. Antonio Gibson versus Atlanta, or Jonathan Taylor versus Miami. They've both been relatively inconsistent, and those are both decent matchups, right? I know that Jonathan Taylor is popping up on a lot of like stardom blogs and things like that online, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I think on the week Antonio Gibson will have a better week, and I think part of that has to do with Nyheim Hines cutting more into Jonathan Taylor's value than J.D. McKissic has with Antonio Gibson, but those guys are in very, very similar roles within their offenses, and they're in a very, very similar circumstance with the fact that one is J.D. McKissic eating into carries and really receptions and just overall value, and then the other one is Nyheim Hines eating into his value. So it's a tough call, man. I think that they're going to have pretty similar weeks overall, but if you're asking me, I've just got better conviction in Gibson at the moment. Let's see, as Richard Glass says, it was giving me 1988 PTSD. We are sorry to hear that, man. Didn't mean to do that to you. But I'm glad the stream's working better now, nonetheless. Ryan, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you as always, man. Happy to have you in the chat, in the live stream tonight. Hope you are doing fantastic. I made a trade for the future because my league is a rookie keeper. I traded Dalvin Cook and Robert Woods for Najee Harris and Hollywood Brown. I think that could work out in the long run. I think you potentially got an upgrade at receiver, although Hollywood Brown looked absolutely, oh my gosh, he looked so bad this past week versus Detroit. I mean, we've talked about this a little bit already. He was angering me every time he dropped a touchdown pass. But yeah, I think in the long run, in terms of rookie keeper leagues, that's a pretty good trade, man. I got a lot of conviction in Najee Harris. I do believe in him in the long term, so I won't be surprised if he can step up and be, as consistent of a back as Dalvin Cook has been. So I don't think that's too bad of a trade, man. Steven says, Richard, your comment had me laughing so hard. Yeah, we were both cracking up about that, man. Fantasy catch-up, Patrick Mahomes versus Philly, or Josh Allen versus Washington. If I'm not mistaken, Josh Allen is not facing Washington this week. Let's see here. Didn't he just face them? see if we can't pull up Joshy boy. Yeah, Josh Allen's got Houston this week, which I think both of those are pretty good matchups overall. But the way Josh Allen and the Bills are playing right now, I kind of like them more, which is really surprising to say because I never want to tell you to sit Patrick Mahomes either, man. But, overall, the Bills are just on fire right now, right? I mean, it's hard to bet against them. But Patty Mahomes still QB3 on the year. But Philly's the 9th best team against opposing QBs right now. So part of me is wanting to tell you to sit Patty Mahomes for Josh Allen versus Houston. Houston's a much better matchup overall. Although Philly looked pretty abysmal this past week, right? So I think they're both good starts. But I think looking at the matchups, you want to roll with Josh Allen. Steven says, I think Taylor is in store for getting a TD and having a nice week, but still Lean Gibson, he balled out and has been highly efficient with his carries. Washington football team also looked to target him in passing game more. Yeah, I like those points. Like I said, I personally am feeling Gibson a little bit more, but Taylor's always got the chance to score a touchdown as well. All right, let's see. A-Rod99, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat, man. Hope you're doing fantastic. Happy to have you here in the stream tonight. This week as a flex, should I start Chuba Hubbard or Saquon or even a wide receiver like Rondell Moore? Rondell Moore, who disappointed all of us last week very, very heavily, right? I think Chuba's a really good flex player this week. And let's see here. I like Saquon as well. But I would honestly start Chuba versus the Cowboys. Because Saquon's got the Saints. And I think that Chuba's got the better matchup versus the Dallas Cowboys. And oh my gosh, I'm running out of time in this first half in Madden again. Like I always seem to do. Oh my gosh, how did we not catch that? Okay, so Chuba's got the Cowboys, and let's see here. Let's see where both respective teams. I mean, I can tell you, wow, the Cowboys are the 8th best team against the run. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense, man. They've been playing very well up front. And then when we're looking at Barkley, man, I mean, I would imagine the Saints are up there. Yeah, they're the 6th best team. It's a tough matchup for both of those guys. But if you're asking me, I think that Chuba's going to have a good week. I've got more conviction in him at the moment, just due to the volume that he's going to get. But it's pretty tough matchups there, man. Be interested to get in the chat your guys' thoughts there. Chuba Hubbard or Saquon. Or would you roll with Rondell Moore? I mean, I would still take a chance on one of those running backs just due to their volume. But they both got tough matchups. So I think, both of them have a very good shot in getting in the end zone. It's still pretty tough matchups overall. Let's see. Steven, Mike Williams has been so good and consistent, I can't even include him on my must-start wide receiver videos because he's always a no auto lock now, it seems. Yeah. And your mom has him in our league. So shout out to your mom, man. Great pick. Richard Glass. I think I picked up Rashawn Bateman in all my leagues as a stash because Hollywood can't catch a ball. Man, he really can't. I mean, both of those drops in the end zone were right in his hands. Like, I mean, maybe it's easier said than done, but that's what you're getting paid to do, right? I mean, it was rough out there. Truly rough out there. Fancy catch-up, I mean Houston. Sorry, brain dead. Oh, you're good, bro. I was tracking you, man. We're all good here. No worries, dog. Joshua, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat tonight. Hope you're doing fantastic. James Robinson or Sanders at running back 2. I have J-Rob starting. Can't start Sanders since Hurts rushes all the time. It's a good question and a good point. Going through my notes, I got notes on every running back for the night, man. And listen, I know a lot of people are worried about starting Miles Sanders after this past week, and I don't blame you as a whole, man, as he only got 2 touches. But listen, man, he's got the Chiefs, and they have been bad against opposing running backs. I mean, this Chiefs team is unfortunately not as good as we're used to. Uh, both defensively and offensively. But, in regards to this video, right, they are the 29th ranked team against opposing running backs. So I think he's actually a good start on the week. When we're looking at everything from a statistical standpoint, right, I actually like him this week. And then we're looking at our guy, James Robinson. He's got Cincinnati, who's the 18th ranked team against opposing running backs, and they've actually played very well defensively on the season. So I don't mind James Robinson. I think if you're spooked with Miles Sanders, then it's an okay start, man. But I think Sanders could have a sneaky good week coming off of a very bad performance, against the Cowboys Monday Night Football. I get it. So, but man, when we're looking at how Kansas City has been playing against opposing running backs, it's not pretty, man. So I think they're both good starts, but I think Sanders might be worth a start this week. Jason Kenobi, who the hell drafted Mahomes and Allen? Good to see you. And the chat, bro, good to have you here as always, man. Sporting our guy, Obi-Wan Kenobi, in the profile pic. I love to see it every time you're in here, man. Cracks me up. Fantasy catch-up. I play DraftKings. I can choose any QB any week. At Jason. Jason says, my bad. Yeah, man. It's definitely, I've never really done the DraftKings. I've always thought about it, man. Setting a lineup each week. I think it'd be a lot of fun. I might get into that at some point this year. So, fantasy catch-up, all good. It's harder because I want to pick them all. Yeah, I'm sure it is, man. Definitely a unique challenge in itself. Let's see. Fantasy catch-up, top 2 running backs this week. I got Alvin Kamara and David Montgomery. Yeah, I think they're both really good starts. The only other player I'd put up there, well, maybe there's a couple, right? But I would definitely put Derrick Henry versus the Jets, as they are the 30th worst team in the whole league versus opposing running back. So I think he's a great start as well. But I like both of those starts that you already have a whole lot as well. So yeah, I think those are good starts as a whole. But I would also consider Derrick Henry. I don't know in terms of DraftKings how much capital you have to spend on that, right? But I think he's a very, very, very solid start as well. So if you're asking me, my top 2 starts on the week are Kamara and Derrick Henry. But, those are pretty obvious starts as well. But I think Montgomery, if you can get him at a reduced cost, if that's what you need to do in DraftKings, then I think that's a perfect plan as well. He's going up against the Lions, who, outside of Week 3 have been awful against opposing running backs. Although, of course, when I told all you guys to start Tyson Williams, they decided to be semi-decent against opposing running backs, or more than semi-decent. They were very good last week. Just a weird game versus the Ravens last week overall, man. So let's see here. Ryan, I also picked up Cole Beasley off the waiver wire for a flex play. I think he's a great flex play this week versus Houston. And I think in terms of full PPR, he's going to consistently be a fantastic flex play as well. So good job there. Bossman Fat, Saquon. The Cowboys shut down the Eagles' run game last week. Yeah, it's a fair point. So I like Saquon as well. I like a lot of these running backs, man, and they always have a chance to get in the end zone. So that's kind of the thing, man. They're always all kind of good starts as long as they're an RB1. So it gets difficult, man, overall. But Saquon and Saquon has a pretty tough matchup, as well as Sanders, But I like both of them, although they have tough matchups, right? It's just like you have to kind of start them if they're on your roster. So it's definitely tough calls, man. But it's hard to set those guys as well. Let's see. A-Rod 99. Thank you, my guy. Always appreciate you. Yeah, man. Appreciate you being in the chat. Appreciate any member of the Catch fam as always as well. Jason Kenobi, if you have Saquon, you got to start him, in my opinion. Yeah, like I just said, I don't necessarily disagree with that whatsoever, man. A lot of these running backs, you kind of have to start, right? Secret, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat. Good to have you here tonight, as always, man. Appreciate you coming out tonight. Let's see. What's up, Catch? Who should I start at flex? Cole Beasley, Patterson, or Marvin Jones? Honestly, man, Beasley versus the Texans, I think, is in full PPR is such a good start. And then I would look to Patterson because I'm just not. I really was liking Marvin Jones as a flex player on a weekly basis, but This Jaguars seems a little inconsistent. I don't know what to expect out of them, man. All right, let's see. AJ, what is going on, brother? Good to see you in the chat, man. Happy to have you here as always. Do you think Peyton Barber going to be starting over Drake? I think Josh Jacobs has a chance to play this week, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a tough call there, man, because you're probably going to have to wait until a little bit before kickoff to really know what you're going to, potentially do. I think Peyton Barber is a good start if Josh Jacobs is out. He's not necessarily starting over Kenyon Drake. He's just being implemented a little bit differently than Kenyon Drake. So, I don't mind Peyton Barber, but only if Josh Jacobs does not play, as we just got burnt in Madden. But he had a good game last week. So, man, I think it's a good start if Jacobs is out. Steven says Peyton Barber looks like he's a Gruden grinder. Absolutely. That's a perfect name for him. Yeah. The true Gruden grinder at last. Fantasy catch-up, $8,800 for Derrick Henry. He's more than Mahomes. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense, man. That's what I expected. That's why I figured he didn't have him in there. So that makes total sense, man. Steven says the over-under on the Packers/Steelers game is pretty low, 45.5, so scares me a bit starting that many guys in that game. Adams is a must-start, though. Any options outside Deonte? Let's see here. Fantasy catch-up. You can start them both when you get $50,000 salary on DraftKings. Got to pick up 3 wide receiver, tight end, flex, defense, and QB. Damn. Yeah, I commend you for playing in DraftKings because I still haven't gotten that down. But I'm going to look into it within the season, I think. That'd be interesting to get into as well. Let's see. Real Goated. What is going on, brother? Happy to see you, man. Happy to have you in the chat as always, brother. Good to see you. Loyal member of the Catch fam. Let's see. Fantasy Catch-up. Those 2 RBs are, wow, both over $8,000. Jeez. Yeah, I can imagine that makes perfect sense. Good matchups for a lot of these star running backs this week, man. Real Goated. He declined that Lamar, Galladay, and Fuller trade. Damn. Sorry to hear that, bro. Was really hoping that would work out for you, man. But let us know if you need any more advice or opinions on any drafts any trades that you're trying to conduct, man. Happy to try and help you out again. Bossman Fat, don't sleep on Cole Beasley. 20 points with no TDs last week. Yeah, he is like the true PPR machine. He is one of the best PPR players in all of fantasy football on a yearly basis. I got spooked out of drafting him because the whole vaccine issue, which we don't need to get into or anything, man. But I just wasn't sure if he was going to be playing at the start of the season, and I probably read into that too much because I would have loved to draft Cole Beasley where you could have drafted him. And year in and year out, he is just an amazing PPR machine overall. So, yeah, I'm not sleeping on him whatsoever, man. I think he's a great flex play week in and week out. Fantasy catch-up. Be right back, bro. Running to store. Hope to see you here still. Yeah, man, we'll be on for a bit, so no worries, my guy. Do what you got to do, homie. All right, let's see here. Getting back to some running backs, and if you guys have more fantasy, let's see, fantasy catch-up. Browns or Vikings? Ooh, tough call, man. That is a tough game to call. I'm going to give the Browns a dub. Don't ask me why. I could really see the Vikings winning that game too, man. Start Kirk this week versus Browns or dub him. I could see that game being a little bit of a shootout, man. I think Kirk Cousins is a good start in that game. I could definitely see there being a lot of points put up in that game. As Bossman Fat says, Browns. Yeah, I'm giving the Browns the edge, but the Vikings have been sneaky good this year, man. And that brings us to Dalvin Cook / Alexander Mattison, who are the next running backs I've got notes on here, man. And it's really just whoever is the starter is who you should start. Don't really have individual notes on either of them. But with that being said, Cleveland's the third best team against opposing running backs right now, but I think due to volume and the way that the Vikings run their offense, that they're both worth a start and they both have the potential to score, whomever is the starter. So I would just look at whoever's the starter, and I like both of them in this game, although it's a pretty tough matchup as a whole, man. So be wary. Start with caution, right? Aaron Jones has got the Steelers this week, which isn't the best matchup overall, man. But once again, I think due to volume, you just have to start him. And it's not the best matchup, being that Pittsburgh is the 5th best team against opposing running backs right now. But I will say that due to volume and being that he's ranked around RB2 right now on the season, I think it's a very good start as I throw an interception in Madden, like usual. Let's see. But yeah, I think Aaron Jones is a good start, even versus a pretty good overall defense, right? So let's see here. A lot of good. I mean, most of these guys, you guys know, we're starting. I got my top 5 must-starts out at the beginning of the stream. I mean, Nick Chubb versus the Vikings is another, star player that you're going to start if you own him. And, I mean, he hasn't really lived up to what we've wanted, right? I expect him to be a little bit higher overall in terms of rankings, but Minnesota's 16th ranked team versus opposing running backs, and he's still RB8 on the year at the moment, so I like where Nick Chubb is at, man. Let's see. Our boss man, Fat, who wins the Cowboys-Panthers game? A very good defense going up against a very good offense, and then a good defense going up against a good offense is the way I would put that game, right? And the very good defense would be the Panthers. Very good offense would be the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have a good defense, man. Young defense that's starting to show up. And then I think the same with the Panthers. But I'm going to give the edge to the Cowboys, being that the Panthers are down a few of their star players, right? And I think that if Christian McCaffrey was there, right, we don't know what's happening at corner. With the injury to J.C. Horn, I think the Panthers would have a better chance there. I know Steven had the Cowboys defense in his must-start, defenses for Week 4, and I think that's a really good call, man. I think that this Cowboys defense is being slept on a little bit, man, and they're starting to show up, right? And I think against certain opponents, they're very good starts overall. But I still believe in the Panthers, even without Christian McCaffrey, man. So, but nonetheless, man, if you're desperate for a streaming defense, I think that they're a pretty good start. Let's see. Ryan, Najee Harris against Green Bay and Trey Sermon versus Seattle are good plays. Yeah, and it paid me to say it, but that was my 5th must start on the list tonight, was the San Francisco 49ers running backs, right? And I never thought I'd say that, because you guys know that I hate the San Francisco 49ers running backs and the risk you take when you play them. But listen, they've got the Seahawks, and the Seahawks are the worst team in the league against opposing running backs. So take a chance or start both of them. I don't know. But overall, man, I think that I definitely agree with that. And Najee Harris is the next player that I've got on my list here. I do like him versus the Packers a whole lot. What a beautiful week last week that we saw for Najee Harris, right? I mean, listen, man. Talked about him all offseason and all preseason. Pretty bad week in week 1, although he's facing top 5 team versus opposing running backs on the season and the Bills. And then a decent week in Las Vegas. I mean, a pretty good week, actually. Then a very good week last week. And now this is actually the best matchup he's had all season versus Green Bay. So I like this matchup a whole lot, and I would roll with this with extreme confidence overall. So yeah, I think Najee Harris is a great start as well, Ryan. Fantasy catch-up, Jacoby Brissett, versus the Colts. Revenge game for Mr. Brisket, right? Yeah, I think it's a good start. I don't have a problem with starting Jacoby Brissett if you have to, man. In deeper leagues, that is, right? So yeah, I think Jacoby Brissett versus the Colts will be a fun start to watch, and a pretty good start overall, man. Steven, Vikings are sneaky good this year. Absolutely agree with that, brother. I like the Browns here, though. Go dog pound. Teams have been able to run against Seattle pretty well. Najee Harris at 19 targets is a stud. Yeah, 100% agree with that sentiment, bro. All right, so we talked about Antonio Gibson already tonight. So let's keep going through the notes. I think he's got a good matchup versus the Falcons. So Deandre Swift at the Bears is next on the notes, man. I think this is a good start, man. I think this is still a top 10, top 12 start on the week. I like where he's at, man. I mean, listen, he's ranked, depending on scoring format, as a top 5 running back. He's had 20 points in week 1. Depending on scoring format, about 10 points in week 2, and then another 20 points in week 3 versus the Ravens. I mean, what the hell, bro? I had no faith whatsoever in drafting Deandre Swift in the offseason, and I have been wrong about many things in this strange fantasy football season in 2021 that we have, right? And Deandre Swift is one of them. So he is a very good start this week, man. Just based on volume alone and the fact that where he's being ranked respectively is ridiculous. So yeah, start Deandre Swift with pretty extreme confidence, I would say. All right, let's see here. We got to win this game of Madden, guys. I mean, I can't lose another game. We get in a booth review. Might be a score. It's upheld. Okay. All right, let's see here. Next on the list, we talked about Saquon this week. It's a tough matchup, man. I would be wary of that one. Miles Sanders I've got on here as well. I like Miles Sanders this week. I think versus the Chiefs, it's a very good matchup overall, and I would not be afraid to start him, even with the fact that he only saw 2 touches last week. I know it's going to spook a lot of you guys, but I think it's a good start overall. Jonathan Taylor's got a pretty good matchup versus the Dolphins, right? He's been a little bit of a spooky running back to roll with, man. But I would start him if he is one of your primary running backs. If you have the option to put in a better flex player and you can start 2 other running backs that you're confident in, then I don't know, man. I'm a little wary of Jonathan Taylor right now, which pains me because I do really like him as a player. But I do think that Nyheim Hines is obviously really cutting into his value as well. So I would just have some caution here with Jonathan Taylor as he's ranked around RB29 depending on scoring format. And he's had some pretty good matchups. And, in week 1 he played the Seahawks and he performed very well as he should have, as they are the worst team in fantasy football against opposing running backs, right? And then when we look, I mean, the Rams are only the 11th best team, and then Tennessee the 15th best team. So don't get me wrong, man. When we're looking at the matchup, Dolphins are the 31st worst team in the National Football League against opposing running backs. So it's a very good matchup, man. But with him being questionable, with Nyheim Hines involved, I just see this going either one of 2 ways. Another mediocre game like the last 2 weeks, or he has a solid stat line like he did in week 1. And I couldn't tell you which Jonathan Taylor we're going to see, but the matchup is good. I would start Nyheim Hines. I would consider Nyheim Hines a must-start this week versus the Dolphins, who've just been god-awful against opposing running backs. But for whatever reason, I just feel a little scared of starting Jonathan Taylor. But the matchup's great, man. It truly, truly is. Let's see, Steven. I like Cowboys against Panthers. Dallas has looked impressive. Their defense is very strong. And the Panthers will still need to adjust to being without CMC, especially Sam Darnold, who has used him as a safety blanket. John, how are you feeling on Panthers offense as a whole? Honestly, since CMC goes down, Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore stock potentially up due to targets going their way more. Yeah, when we had the initial Christian McCaffrey injury video that we went over about 2 days after his injury, I talked about a lot of these guys potentially getting a lot more targets. And, I don't think DJ Moore can really get any more targets than he's already been getting, but he probably will, right? He's having an incredible season. They have got to get Robbie Anderson involved in this offense, man. It just doesn't make any sense. He's barely had any targets on the season, right? And it's ridiculous, right? They're going to have a new tight end in the mix, right, as they've traded away Dan Arnold. And then when we're looking at things, man, Terrace Marshall Jr., his overall targets are just increasing by the week. And, yeah, I like where he's at as well. But all these guys are going to have to see more targets as a whole. And definitely all those guys you listed will see more targets. And I think that Chuba Hubbard will be more involved as well in the passing game, kind of trying to replace Christian McCaffrey. So I still like this offense. And I like the fact that their defense essentially just gets to play off of the offense, right? Or excuse me, I'm sorry, I meant to say it the other way. Their offense gets to play off of their defense. So this defense is legit, guys. And, really the offense only has to do so much week in and week out. So I like this team still. I still believe in them. I still believe in the resurgence of Mr. Sam Darnold. And yeah, I think that this team is going to continue to play well, but really it's going to be based on how their defense performs on a weekly basis as a whole. So I do think a lot of those guys that you mentioned will see an uptick in targets. And I hope that Terrace Marshall Jr. Starts to set off, man, because I still believe in him. And probably going to fight for him on the waiver wire if he does start to pop off. But it is what it is, man. Oh, please let us score. Let's go. Catch fam. Madden victory in the books in overtime. All right. Ezekiel Elliott versus the Panthers, team we're just talking about. Might as well bring it up, right? It's a bad start. Pains me to say, man. When we're looking, at the logistics and at the stats, it's a bad start. But you can't set Zeke, man, even versus a good defense, man. You just can't, right? Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I know a lot of people have been spooked by him recently, but he's a pretty good start versus the Eagles this week. Myles Gaskin's got the Colts. I'm not sold on Gaskin right now, guys. I'm just not. Kareem Hunt's got the Vikings. I think he's going to be a player that you flex if you own him, probably on a weekly basis. If Josh Jacobs plays, he's kind of next here, kind of towards the bottom tier versus the Chargers. They've looked very good against opposing running backs, right? Melvin Gordon / Devonta Williams versus the Ravens, I think are good starts overall. It's just going to depend on who you think gets more touches. It's hard to call. Two other guys I want to mention as we're kind of towards the bottom tier of the notes here. Listen, Zach Moss and Devin Singletary got Houston. Flip a coin. One of them's going to ball out. Houston's actually been good against opposing running backs, but the way that Zach Moss is implemented, man, I think he's going to have a good game. But yeah, crazy to say, but Houston's been good against opposing running backs, man. It's kind of mind-boggling, but it's the season we're living in, guys. I like Patterson versus Washington, kind of looking towards the bottom tier list. I would still consider Chase Edmonds this week. I know that some people are kind of spooked of him right now, going up against a pretty good Rams team, right? Looking through here, Nyheim Hines, a very good sneaky start this week versus Miami, especially in full PPR. Listen, the Ravens have the Denver Broncos, and I'm not a fan of this matchup from a running back perspective, especially with what we saw out of Tyson Williams last week. So that's one backfield that I'm a little scared of right now. Outside of that, I don't think there's anyone else we really need to go over. The Rams running backs have Arizona, which is a pretty tough matchup. Tampa Bay's got New England, which is a tough matchup. I don't know which one of those guys you want to start, but it's a tough matchup as well. Evan Harrison, what is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat, man. Hope you're doing fantastic tonight. Happy to have you here as always. Got an official trade offer today. Brandon Cooks from Montgomery. Is this a smart trade in the long run? Steven says, what's your roster look like? This trade really only makes sense if you're RB heavy. Montgomery has been solid with carries and yards, and gotta think this Bears team will improve. Maybe. So let's see. And I think, Evan's trading Cooks for Montgomery. So you've got Rodgers, Adams, Moore, Chase, Eckler, Jacobs, Kittle, Brandon Cooks, then Moss, Singletary, Eli Mitchell, Chark, and Sterling Shepard. So you are pretty running back heavy. But looking at your receivers here, I think you can consider it, but I don't think it's a bad trade because you're potentially getting another running back one with a lot of value, man. But in the long run, You already have a lot of running backs. You got both the Bills running backs. I think Eli Mitchell, some weeks will be an RB1, some weeks he won't be. It's hard to tell with that Niners backfield. You've got Eckler and Jacobs. So, I mean, it's going to help you in the sense that Jacobs has, been banged up and everything. And, I mean, don't get me wrong, you're going to start Adams and Jamar Chase every single week. And Sterling Shepard, when he comes back, is definitely going to help your roster as well. So I think you could do that trade. I don't hate that trade, but I like going running back heavy. So that's how I usually roll, man. So, of course, I'm going to say I like that trade. But, yeah, you're going to start Chase Edmonds and Devonta Adams every single week, no matter what, at this point in time. So, barring any injury, I think you're already set at receiver, and then you can flex a running back outside of Eckler and whoever else. I mean, that's kind of the nice thing is Montgomery kind of gives you a more solid, RB1. So I think it's pretty good, trade to consider at the very least, man. So let me know if you want any more embellishment on that. I'm sure Steven will give you his thoughts as well. All right, guys. So there's, I'm going to keep the stream going for a little bit here. I mean, some of these must-start streams are going to be a little bit shorter than some of our other, typical streams, fantasy Q&A streams, right? But yeah, I will go ahead and we'll play this game of Madden. I'll keep it open for any fantasy Q&A or anything else you guys want me to go over for running backs on the week. Like I said, my must start of the week, Austin Eckler versus the Raiders. I think he's going to absolutely ball out, man. Joe Mixon versus the Jaguars was the next guy I went over. Then David Montgomery at the Lions. Then Chris Carson at the 49ers. And then I had the San Francisco 49ers running backs versus the Seahawks. And I just ran backwards in Madden thinking I did a play action. I did not. But it's all good. But yeah, some of the other notable matchups, man. Clyde Edwards-Helaire at the Eagles as well as Miles Sanders versus the Chiefs is a good matchup. Jonathan Taylor and Naheem Hines versus the Dolphins if we're just looking at matchups, right? Saquon Barkley and Zeke got some tough matchups. I think you got to start DeAndre Swift this week. Antonio Gibson's got a good matchup. Then Najee Harris versus the Packers. Another great matchup as well. And then really your top 3 or 4 running backs, right? I mean, there's really no question here, right? Aaron Jones, you're starting him. Dalvin Cook or Madison, you're starting him. Kamara and Henry, you're starting him. I think Derrick Henry could have another 40-point week. So we'll see what happens. But, yeah, man, those were my must-starts of the week. And, wow, what an interception we just threw in Madden. But let me see if there's any other kind of feedback, any of my notes that I wanted to get to. I think I got to everything. Evan Harrison just wasn't sure about Montgomery's schedule later in the year. Excuse me. C-Crip, would you start Patterson over Jones Jr. and Pittman? It's a good question. I mean, Pittman's got a good matchup. Had a bad week last week, right, after just consistently balling out. So, it's a tough call, man. I'm going to go ahead. Let's pull up the matchups, man. Yeah, Patterson, technically the Washington football team is the 7th ranked team against opposing running backs, but being that he gets so much work in the open field as a receiver as well, I don't think it's a bad start. I would actually roll with Patterson at the moment, and then I would rank Pittman, and then I would rank Jones. But Pittman's got a pretty good matchup versus Miami as well. Let me see here. Evan, I'm going to pull up David Montgomery's schedule on the year. All right, so he's got some pretty good matchups coming up. I mean, he's got Detroit this week, then the Raiders and Green Bay. A little stiff versus Tampa Bay, then a good matchup versus San Francisco, then a not-so-good matchup versus Pittsburgh. Let's look a little bit later in the year. Week 11, Baltimore, Week 12, Detroit, good matchups. A little stiff versus Arizona in Week 13. Then he's got Green Bay in Week 14, which is a good matchup. Minnesota, kind of middle of the pack in Week 15. Then he's got a great season-ending matchups here. Seattle in Week 16, and then the New York Giants in Week 17. If not mistaken, that's when most fantasy playoffs are going to be, at least the final 2 games. So, I think that those, I think leaning Montgomery overall is a good option, and I think in terms of where he's going to be towards the end stretch of the season, I think it's going to be a good time to own David Montgomery, man. So I would go with that trade. C-Crip, you are welcome, bro. You already know that is what we are here for, man. So no worries, brother. All right, Steven says Jacobs and Mitchell are sketchy. That running back depth will be needed. Evan, Steven, I'm trading for Montgomery. Yeah, I like the trade, Evan. I truly do. Let's see. Steven says, love that wide receiver core you got. Yeah, I do too, man. I truly do, especially when Shepard comes back and is fully healthy, man. I think that's a pretty gnarly, 3-stack receiver core you got going there, man. All right, let's see here. Just trying to pull up some more notes, but they are loading quite slow. I have to exit out of this. Let's see. Steven says, definitely that'll be a win for you if you can pull that off. Yeah, man. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just think about having Montgomery, Eckler, Jacobs when healthy, Moss and Singletary. You've got both the Bills running backs. And then I think Eli Mitchell's still going to have some good games, but I just don't know when they're going to be. It's just hard to say. Evan, gotcha. I'll keep you all updated. Thanks for the help. Anytime, brother. You know that's what we are here for, man. Just appreciate you coming out to the streams and being active, day in and day out, man. We truly appreciate you. Evan, or Steven says, Evan, I actually really like your wide receivers. You had a great draft there, my guy. Landed a bunch of studs. Yeah. And being that Austin Eckler is in there as well, you got a RB receiver as well, man. Yeah. I think Eckler's going to have a big, big week, man. I truly do. And he's looked fantastic so far on the season, man. I mean, I got to give it to Steven. I battled him on, drafting Austin Eckler so early. And like I said, he drafted him 5th overall, and right now he's the 5th running back overall in the season. I mean, depending on scoring format, but he might be a little bit higher in some leagues. So it looks fantastic, man. Let me know if there's any other running backs you guys want to discuss tonight. I'd be interested to hear how you guys feel about the Denver Broncos running backs this week. As they have a pretty good matchup. It's just hard to say who's really going to end up with more touches, right? I mean, being that they're going against Baltimore has not been good against opposing running backs. So I like where they're at this week. I mean, I've got Devonta Williams, who finally scored last week. That was one thing I got right last week, right? I told you guys I thought last week was the week he'd get that first NFL touchdown, and it happened. And I was super happy to see that, man. That was a good feeling. All right, let's see here. Jerry Jeudy. If only he wasn't injured in real life. Gave him the catch curse. All right, touchdown in Madden. Evan says, Steven, yeah, I got Brandon Cooks in round 13. Yeah, Brandon Cooks, another guy I talked about. Not as much as some of the other receivers I was talking about in late rounds, but I got spooked. I got spooked because he was on the Texans, and apparently the Texans are the best team in the league. So we'll know next year to not hate on teams that are awful and have no coaches or anything. Did you guys hear this story? Got to ask you guys about this, right? That Bill O'Brien was trying to intentionally get fired from the Texans because there were rumors that Robert Kraft wanted to make him the head coach of the Patriots. And when he tried to intentionally get fired, that's when he got all those extra promotions to like GM and like 20 other things, right? I don't know, man. I thought that was interesting. Who knows? It's according to outside sources, so who knows what is true. But I heard about that today, actually on the Pat McAfee show, and I was like, that's some interesting stuff, man. Maybe explain some of Bill O'Brien's actions, because he was a decent head coach before his last couple of years where he started to have those debacles, man. So interesting stuff, man. And I also want to get your guys' thoughts on Richard Sherman getting signed to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. What you guys think about that as well. Fancy Ketchup, back bro. You're my favorite YouTuber and you barely have any subs. It's a shame this world works that way. You make me feel part of this broadcast every time and put full effort in my questions. Hey, I truly appreciate that, man. Means a lot to me, means a lot to the channel, and means a lot to Steven, our co-host, as well. Means a lot, brother. Truly does. I'm happy that you get that feeling when you come out to the stream. And yeah, man, we're happy to have you as part of the Catch fam, man. So the support and love is truly appreciated, man, and is definitely, it's all thrown back your way as well. And yeah, man, I mean, we're a new YouTube channel, man. This is only we're barely pushing 4 months, so it's been a wild ride, man. It's been a ton of fun, man. And, we've got plenty to improve on. We got plenty of time to continue to grow as a community, man. So just continue to come out to the streams when you can, and, watch any of the videos when you can, and spread the word, man. And, we got plenty of time to grow as a community, but we will look back on these days where we have glitchy streams and we can't figure out how to get Steven on the stream. And one day we'll look back and laugh, and we'll remember some of these more tight-knit streams, man, with the smaller community. But yeah, nonetheless, man, truly appreciate the kind words, man. And happy that we've made you, feel that way and feel appreciated as a viewer as well. Steven says, love to hear it. Evan Cooks was super slept on. Yeah. Texans as a whole were super slept on, man. We should all drafted Tyrod Taylor, right? Or Mills, right? Who actually, I think Mills has an opportunity to kind of step up and play a little bit better than he did last week. And he did play well last week, don't get me wrong. But listen, man, I think he's got a shot this week to put something together. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. Fancy Ketchup. Tim Patrick or Cortland Sutton, third wide receiver. They're great prices on DraftKings. Cole Beasley or Sanders. Callaway or Harris. Let's see here, man. If you can get Patrick cheaper, then I would just roll with Patrick. Here's the thing. I think Patrick's got a better chance to score the way he's implemented than I think Cortland Sutton's got in terms of PPR. Better overall value there in terms of target share. So I like both of them, but if Patrick's cheaper, I think he's got a good chance to score this week. He's a very solid wide receiver number 2, and the Broncos are playing good football, man. So I like both of them, but I think if you can get Patrick cheaper, he's worth it. So Cole Beasley or Emmanuel Sanders. I would roll with Cole Beasley if it's full PPR that you're looking at. I got nothing against Emmanuel Sanders. He had a fantastic game last week. And listen, man, I like Emmanuel Sanders a lot, but he's probably going to, my assumption is going to have these games where he does what he did last week, right? And just goes out there and balls the fuck out and has a lot of big play opportunity, man. And then I think he's going to have weeks where he doesn't necessarily have as many flashy plays, right? That's not a knock on him as a player whatsoever, man. I still really do like him. So I like both of them, but I think Cole Beasley is going to be a little bit more consistent. And in terms of PPR, I think he's going to have a good week overall. Marquez, Callaway, or Damian Harris? It's a good question, man. I would roll with Damian Harris because I, once again, don't know how consistent Callaway is. I know he finally got the score. I mean, I drafted him. He's not on my team in my 12-man league, but I did draft him. And listen, man, I think that we just need to see a larger sample size for Marquez Callaway. And I think the thing with Damian Harris is that the New England Patriots are going to do whatever they can to win this football game on Sunday night. And, I mean, you guys see that touchdown we just had in Madden? What the hell? But anyways, also, if you guys notice that this game, just a timeout, sorry, Fantasy Catch-Up, every time I score, it shows the Bills logo. And that's how bad of a game Madden is. There's how many glitches are in it, man. It's just mind-boggling. I don't know why we're getting the Bills logo every time we score. I think it's pretty funny, actually, but it just blows my mind that this game, and the year that we're in and where we are at, and overall, wow, Tyreek Hill, holy cow. Anyways, yeah, Bills logo shows every time we score. Okay, fantasy catch-up. Good thing we took a timeout. Deonte Harris, not Damian Harris. Okay, I got you. If I was going to pick between the two, I would roll with Marquez Callaway, as he's, kind of locked in at the wide receiver 1 spot. I think Deonte Harris could be a sneaky play, but between the two, I would roll with Marquez Callaway. I was thinking starting Matt Ryan versus Washington. He's cheap on DraftKings. What do you think? Start him and stack other positions, or stack Chiefs? Man, I'm still kind of sketched out about Matt Ryan, if I'm being honest with you, my guy. Let's see here. Let's pull up a couple of notes here. Gosh, my phone is like overloaded with so many different things I have pulled up at all times. What other quarterbacks can you get cheap? Can you get a Sam Darnold, maybe? I think Sam Darnold's a good start this week against the Cowboys. If he's on there and he's a little bit cheap, or he's in that same radius, I think he's a good start this week, man. Let me know. I'm kind of sketched out by Matt Ryan. I guess it is a pretty good matchup overall, but I don't think it's a bad plan. I don't dislike the plan, right? But I think that there might be some other options that you could roll with overall. So let me know about Sam Darnold. That's a guy who I think you might be able to get pretty cheap. I'm just assuming, but I think he could be a good start for you this week. And yeah, I like the idea of going cheap at quarterback and streaming against a poor defense and then stacking at other positions. I think it's a smart move, man. Oh, no, we're going to get sacked. Okay. Let's see. Nathan Janke, what is going on, brother? Happy to have you in the chat. Good to see you as always, my guy. Hope you are doing fantastic. We'll get to your question in just 1 second here. Fantasy catch-up, as I see you saying, Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold and Jameis Winston. Yeah, I like Sam Darnold this week a lot, but I also like Kirk Cousins a lot. If you can get Kirk Cousins cheap versus the Browns, listen, Kirk Cousins like your QB4 on the season right now, which is absolutely, absolutely insane, man. I would roll with Kirk Cousins if he's pretty cheap, and if he's in comparison to someone that's going to work with your strategy there, then I think he's a great option overall, man, and I would roll with him for the time being. I think he's a really good option versus the Browns and what could be a potential shootout this week. So I would go Cousins, then Darnold, then Jameis or Matt Ryan. But I like Cousins and Darnold a lot more than the other two there. All right, Nathan, let's get back to your question, homie. What do you think about Jerry Jeudy and Michael Thomas when they come back? I love Jerry Jeudy still. I'm still on the Jerry Jeudy hype train all the way, man. He looked great before he got injured. One of the biggest blows so far this fantasy season. I think he's going to be fantastic in a team that is passing the football a lot. And, I like where he's at still, and I think he's going to be great when he returns. And in terms of Michael Thomas, man, I don't know that he's going to be on the Saints. I still kind of stand by that, man. I don't know that Michael Thomas is going to come back to the Saints. I'm worried about Michael Thomas, man. I truly, truly am. He is not someone that I'm looking forward to rostering. And I don't know, even when he comes back, if he's going to bounce back immediately, right? So, if you're asking me, I like Jerry Jeudy a lot more than Michael Thomas. I think we're going to have to kind of hold out and wait and see what we get out of Michael Thomas. It's going to be tough to call, man. All right, let's see here. Jason Kenobi, would you trade Zeke and Mike Evans and Robert Woods for Hill, Montgomery, and Anderson? That's a tough call. If you asked me 3 weeks ago, absolutely. But Tyreek Hill been playing a little bit sketchy, man. I mean, wouldn't you agree? I mean, is he any better than Mike Evans right now? I don't know. I think the trade-off for Zeke and Montgomery is pretty fair. And I think the trade-off for Woods and Anderson's pretty fair. And the name, Hill is a better name than Evans for the roster. But on the year, I think Hill will be better on the season. But there's some turmoil up there in Kansas City right now, out there in the West, right? So it's a tough call, man. I still believe in the Chiefs, don't get me wrong. I think there's a lot of overreaction going on with the Chiefs with them being last in the division right now. But this division's for real, man. That's a tough call, Jason. If you have more conviction in those players, then yeah, I think it's a good trade. I mean, it's a pretty fair handoff overall. But I would hold off and think about it. I would put some deep thought into that one. I don't want to be the deciding factor for that because that's a lot of big players moving around there. And, Robert Woods has been better than Robbie Anderson. Let's not get that twisted. I know Robert Woods has been disappointing some people, man, but I still believe in him more than Robbie Anderson, although I think it's a pretty fair trade-off. And I think Zeke's been better than Montgomery, but I think they're both going to have good seasons. And then that's just a tough call, man. I could dissect that one all night. That's really tough to call. Let us know in the chat what you guys think about Jason's trade there, and if you guys have any feedback on that for him as well. Fantasy catch-up. Sam Darnold is 6,000. Teddy Bridgewater, 57. Matt Ryan, 54. Kirk Cousins, 64. Ryan Tannehill, 62. Jacoby Brissett is 51 versus the Colts. Sneaky start. I like all those starts, man. I truly do. I think kind of sit in the middle range there with Sam Darnold is a good bet, though. Let's see. And I still really like Kirk Cousins, too. Joshua, what is going on, man? Happy to see you in the chat. Hope you're doing fantastic tonight, man. To any new faces out there, hope you guys are considering subscribing to the channel and becoming part of the Catch fam. But if you're not, man, we just appreciate you being in the chat or viewing the live stream tonight. So got to give the shout out to any new faces. And let's get into Joshua's question. Green Bay defense, Cowboys defense, or Washington? Good question, man. Honestly, I'm rolling with Dallas out of those guys, man. I think they got a sneaky start. Steven talked about this in his must-start defense video. And I'm not crazy about Washington right now. And the thing with the Falcons, who they're facing, the Falcons have been bad offensively, but they haven't been turning the football over a whole lot. And then when you look at Green Bay, it's not an awful matchup on the week per se, but I don't know, man. I just have a better feeling overall about Dallas, man. I think that they're going to have a good week this week. I've actually considered going out and getting them in my 20-man league, but yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh, for Green Bay hasn't been great by any means, but I think Dallas has the best chance to put up a solid stat line here against the Panthers, but I do like the Panthers as well. So those aren't my favorite teams to pick from, but I understand that you're probably streaming that there's probably not a lot of good options. So I would lean somewhere between Dallas and Washington. Like I said, I mean, Atlanta hasn't really been turning the football over, but they're not playing great offensively. So tough call there. Let me know if you want any more clarification on that, Joshua. Fantasy catch-up. Corey Davis versus Titans, his former team. Brandon Ayuk or Jalen Waddle. They're all the same prices. Yeah, I like Corey Davis this week, man. I think he could have a good week versus the Titans. But I talked about a lot of receivers versus the Titans last week, and it didn't necessarily work out for us, right? But the Titans are still very bad in the secondary. So I think he's a good start overall, man. I like where Corey Davis is at this week, man. I think he's a good start. Oh, yeah. Touchdown, baby. All right. Corey Davis has still been an absolute target hog, says Steven. And finally, Jets play an easy defense. This should be a bounce-back game and open the door for Corey Davis to have a solid game. I agree with that, man. And he's due a solid game, which makes me happy because I have him in both of my primary leagues. So, yeah, I agree with Steven there. Let me know. I'm interested to get your guys' thoughts. What you guys think about Richard Sherman coming back, here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I'm interested to get your guys' thoughts on that. And while we're at it, who wins that game Sunday night? The Buccaneers for the New England Patriots. This is a game of football that I'm so excited for, man. I truly am. All right, guys, let's see here. Pulling up a couple more notes here. Fantasy catch-up. Kate Tony, wide receiver, New York Giants, supposed to be number one this week with all injuries. Would you start him in a tournament this week or stay away from Giants, period? That is a good question, my friend. Isn't there another receiver on the Giants who played well last week? Yeah, it's Kadarius Toney. Yeah, and then you got Westbrook on the Titans, who should step up once again this week. This is who I'm looking for. Colin Johnson. Talked about him in my waiver wire video. Listen, man, if you're asking me, I don't think it's the worst idea in the world, but this Saints defense is for real. And I would be pretty hesitant about starting anyone against the Saints defense at this point in time. I don't think it's awful, man. But overall, yeah, I would stay away from them. Unless you're in like a really deep league and don't have a better options. Fantasy Ketchup says Buccaneers will win. Let me know if you guys think Patriots or Buccaneers. I'm interested to hear because I have no idea who I would pick. I think it will be the Buccaneers. But I got a feeling that Belichick's up to something, man. He might have a good game plan here. And this Buccaneers secondary looks awful, man. Jason Kenobi, should I try to trade for D-Hop? That's a good question, man. I mean, why not? He is DeAndre Hopkins, right? Let's see here. How is Hopkins looking on the season, man? Questionable right now. I mean, he's got the Rams, the Niners, Cleveland, Houston, Green Bay, the Niners, Carolina. He's got some tough matchups, but he's one of those receivers that just doesn't matter. If you want a true wide receiver one, right, that you can start against any team, then sure. Let me know your thoughts around that, who you're trying to trade for him, what you're going to have to potentially give up. And, yeah, I'd be happy to help and talk you through that trade, guys. Or Jason, sorry. But, all right, let's see. Yeah, let me know overall who you're trying to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. All right, let's see here. We got to secure this dub in Madden, boys. Fancy catch-up. Travis Kelce or Tyreek Hill stacked with Mahomes versus Philly And would you start Kamara or Derrick Henry? I know you said Henry, but I want to know full PPR. I like both of them a lot, man. And yeah, you make a good point in terms of PPR versus non-PPR, but I got a feeling Derrick Henry, regardless of scoring format, is going to be the guy to start overall. I think he's going to just have a monster game. But if he's more expensive and it's going to help your roster out to go with Alvin Kamara, I think that's completely okay as well. And let's see. I would roll with Travis Kelce right now, if you're asking me. I mean, I still love Tyreek Hill, and he's got the chance to go off for 30 points at, in any game, man. But if you're going to spend big, maybe you could probably get better bargains at the receiver position, where Travis Kelce is still your tight end one on the season. Joe Mixon or David Montgomery? I would take a chance on Montgomery versus the Lions. I mean, those are two of my must-start running backs on the week. But I would take a chance on Montgomery as this matchup is a little bit better overall. And I would think that he's probably a little bit cheaper in terms of DraftKings as well. Let me know, guys, how the stream looked tonight, if it was laggy or anything. Let me know what type of quality you guys were getting, as we've been having some technical issues overall. And if you guys are still in the stream, let me know just overall how the stream looked for you guys tonight. I'd be interested to know if you guys don't mind giving me some input as well. Yeah, I think David Montgomery's the back to roll with there, though. I mean, I like Joe Mixon a lot this week. Don't get me wrong. He's got a good matchup. But I think Montgomery will probably be a little bit cheaper, and I think the Lions are a bit of a worse matchup as well. All right, so we are, let's see, Chase Brown. What is going on, brother? Happy to see you in the chat. Hope you are doing well. As always, man, it's good to see you. Pick 3 wide receivers: Keenan Allen, Deontay Johnson, Boyd, Julio, and Beasley. I would roll with Keenan Allen, Beasley, and Julio. Julio, based on the fact that he's going to see an uptick in targets this week with A.J. Brown out. And then I like the matchup for Keenan Allen, although, Mike Williams looks great as well. But yeah, I like Cole Beasley in terms of scoring format as well. So those would be the 3 that I would pick right now. All right, let's see. I have all Boyd and Beasley in right now. Kind of need to win, and I feel like these are the safest options. I think Julio's going to have a good week, man. I truly, truly do. He's going to see an uptick in targets, man. I think from a PPR standpoint, Julio's going to have a good week. I mean, surprising, the Jets have been pretty good against opposing wide receivers, but I still like Julio this week. I think Beasley has a good matchup, and I like Keenan Allen this week as well. But I don't think Boyd's a bad matchup as well. So if you have conviction in it, then I think it's a good start. But yeah, I can see this Raiders and Chargers game turning into a high-scoring affair. So I do like Keenan Allen as well. But yeah, I don't dislike Boyd this week necessarily. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, he's got the Jags. It's not a bad start at all. So I don't disagree in terms of it being a safe start. Fantasy catch-up, Devonta Smith, Allen Robinson, or Cortland Sutton, all the same price. I would roll with Cortland Sutton out of those guys, if you're asking me. I think Sutton has a much better week than the other 2 receivers you've got listed there. So let's see here. Fantasy catch-up, tad bit laggy, but my internet's dog meat. Yeah, man, we've been having some technical issues overall, man. So we're trying our best. But I appreciate that feedback, man. I truly do. I'm not sure if it's internet connection. I'm not sure if it's, in terms of the streaming platform or anything. So just trying to improve through every stream, man. So I appreciate the feedback, my guy. Fantasy catch-up, D. Knox, Dalton Schultz, or Austin Hooper. I would flip a coin between Dawson Knox and Dalton Schultz. I like both of them where they're at right now, man. I think that they're both good starts. That's a hard one, though. Chase Brown, I'm only starting Boyd because Higgins is out. Yeah, I think Boyd is still a good start this week, man. I think he's a safe start as well. So, I wouldn't feel bad about that start whatsoever. Chase Brown, a bit worried about Julio's injury, so I'm willing to wait a week to see if he can produce. That's fair enough, man. I think that's a fair take as well. So, yeah, I like starting Boyd also. I mean, versus the Jags, it's probably going to be a good start overall. So, I think that's a good plan, man. Like I said, if you've got conviction in those guys, then that's completely fine, man. I think those are good starts overall. All right, so we are going to begin to wind down the stream for the night, man. A little bit shorter when we do these must starts, and then just kind of, end with some general Q&A, man. Not as long as like our Saturday night late stream or Sunday night recap or our general fantasy Q&A. But sorry for a little bit of technical errors at the beginning there, man. But nonetheless, man, I truly do appreciate you guys coming out to the stream tonight. We should be back tomorrow as well. Might get on a little bit earlier tomorrow, not entirely sure. But nonetheless, man, appreciate you guys. Appreciate the Catch fam. Any of the new faces out there that joined tonight, hope you guys consider subscribing, becoming part of the Catch fam. For all of the Catch fam who joined tonight, hope you guys smash that like button. For anyone who watches retrospectively, hope you guys smash the like button as well. Feel free to drop some comments if you do watch retrospectively. But nonetheless, man, appreciate all you guys coming out, going over the must-start running backs for the night, and just kind of having some general running back discussion and fantasy Q&A, man. It's always a good time here at the Catch. And like I said, man, we are trying to improve these streams, every time we do one. So let me know overall. But, yeah, anytime we're doing the streams, what type of quality you guys are getting, what you guys think we need to improve on. And yeah, if you guys have any final fantasy Q&A, go ahead and throw it out as we wind down the stream. Steven says, Chase, I almost included Julio in my must-start wide receiver video, but that injury is scary and could easily see the game script going running heavy and just feeding Derrick Henry to drain clock. Yeah, I don't necessarily disagree with that. I think in terms of deeper leagues and full PPR, he's he's still a good start. In fantasy catch-up, Cooper Kupp, DeAndre Hopkins, Tyreek Hill, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams. Pick one. Cooper Kupp, right? It has to be Cooper Kupp, right? Adams probably have a great week. Hill and Diggs will have a good week. D-Hop will have a good week, man. But just the way Cooper Kupp is playing, I'd roll Cooper Kupp at the moment, man. Good night to you guys. I appreciate you guys. Fantasy catch up. Evan Harrison, appreciate the kind words, man. Appreciate all the Catch fam. Appreciate you guys coming out to the stream, man. Can't say enough good things about you guys. Truly does mean the world to us when you guys join in the live stream. Throw out some fantasy Q&A and just help support the channel, man. So we will go ahead and end the stream for the night. We should be back at it tomorrow, man. So as always, man, thank you guys for watching and or listening. Chase Brown, you going to stream after the game tomorrow night? I will probably be streaming during the second half, probably around the third quarter of tomorrow's game. So look out for tomorrow's stream. I should have it scheduled in the morning. So thank you, Chase Brown, for asking that question. Yes, we will be doing some streaming during the game and post game tomorrow. So thank you for bringing that up. Aiden, what is going on, brother? Happy to have you here tonight as we are getting ready to end the stream. Is J.J. Taylor worth starting over either Amari or Chuba? He's got a good matchup versus Miami, so I would say yes. But I like Chuba's matchup this week as well, man, versus the Cowboys. Amari, I think, has got the poorest matchup versus the Panthers. So I think Jonathan Taylor is worth the start, being that Miami's been very bad versus opposing running back. So I think that's a good start overall. But I like Chuba versus the Cowboys too. But don't underestimate this Panthers defense versing Amari Cooper, or Amari Cooper versing this Panthers defense, man. It's pretty stiff matchup overall. So thank you for the final question of the night, Aiden. Hope you consider subscribing to The Catch, becoming part of The Catch fam. Apologize, man. We were just winding down the stream. But like we were just talking about with Chase, man, we will be back at it tomorrow during the end of the Thursday night football game. So make sure you guys look out, for the stream tomorrow, man. And as always, truly, truly appreciate you guys coming out for the night. And oh my gosh, Stephen X, I'm sorry, man. Chris Carson or James Robinson, I would roll with Chris Carson versus the 49ers. He